Mm. Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I worked so hard. I fell ill. Okay, once again, good evening. My name is Maprang. I'm the CEO and founder of Checkmate AI. And this is Japan's first motorsport technology event. Can I hear some excitement from you guys? Woo! We are on live stream. We are on live stream right now. So, yeah, I have to do that for the live stream. Yeah, really. Welcome to the very first Future of Speed, Japan's first motorsport technology event at Google for Startups, Shibuya. Thank you so much, Sunshine. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight. I want to first start with the people who made tonight possible. So, every speaker, right here to my right, every speaker you hear from tonight is actually here for free. They clear their calendars, they prepare their material, and they show up because they believe in what we are trying to build. They said yes because they believe this conversation mattered. I am genuinely humble by that, and I hope that all of you right here will show them tonight how much it means to all of us. Thank you to my co-host Lee Jean, CEO of Pulsar Innovations, my partner in this from day one. Again, thank you, Sunshine. Thank you, Google for Startups, for hosting us in this beautiful space. Thank you to all of our volunteers who are inside the room right now and also outside. I hope they can hear me. Um, because every one of these people, they helped me turn an ambitious idea into a real event together in a matter of weeks. And of course, thank you, you guys. Thank you, the audience, for choosing to spend your evening with us. I want to be honest about what this event is. Future of Speed is independent and unsponsored. There is no brand telling us what to say tonight. We built this because we believe that motorsport and technology deserve a serious, unfiltered conversation. And Checkmate AI is really proud to be the one bringing those worlds together. This is the first event in the series, but it will not be the last. Here's what's coming: 4 sessions and a special phone in from New York. Any of you guys actually knows who's gonna coming? Who's gonna be coming on the phone? Sorry? Yes, but do you know his name? Ah, that's okay. That's okay. You guys will know his name. But do you at least know which team, which garage he's been embedded in? Someone said Hassan Ferrari. Someone did his research. Do we have Ferrari fans tonight? Like, even if you're not, just fake it. We're on live stream right now. Yeah, so yeah. Our special phone in from New York is with the director of Netflix Drive to Survive. So, really, any Ferrari fans in the room, this one is for you. So, first off, we'll begin with McLaren Automotive Japan on the frontier of performance engineering. Then Tom's Racing, the most decorated team in Japanese motorsport history. Next, we will have the AI versus the driver. We have a Red Bull ambassador driver for both Super GT and Super Formula. We have the father, the very father who gave birth to the AI that outraced human driver, Gran Turismo Sophy, with us tonight. We have also another person, CTPO, of a company that makes AI-based coaching platform called Track Titan. We have all of them in one conversation. And then there's a topic about the regulatory gray zones where championships are quietly won. And we close with the human story inside Formula One with the guy from the Ferrari garage. So let's get started. So now, everyone, please welcome Yoshihiro Masamoto, head of Japan, McLaren Automotive. Please have a seat right here. Yes, you're in the middle. Um, How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
You're
Mm.
fine. You're good at this, huh?
What do you mean by
I'm
that?
nervous. I'm nervous. Okay, but before I bring in our first question, a very quick note for context. So when we say McLaren in this room, I want to be precise about which McLaren we're talking about. McLaren Racing and McLaren Automotive are two separate business entities. They share the name, the heritage, but different ownership, different goals. And our guest today represents McLaren Automotive here in Japan, the supercar side, not the Formula One pit wall. So, with that lens in mind, please be mindful of the questions that you will ask Masamoto-san later during our Q&A. Everyone's good? Cool. Okay, Masamoto-san, very first question, because I want to introduce our audience who mainly they're from the technology world, startups. We have entrepreneurs. From what I can see here, we have entrepreneurs, we have startup founders, we have investors, we have representative of some embassies. I can see Austria, I can see Belgium. So I would like you to set the tone of tonight. I would like you to let our audience know about the landscape of motorsport in one of the most sophisticated markets in the world for motorsport for supercars. So from where you sit, what is the one shift happening in motorsport right now that the technology world should be paying very close attention to?
Okay. First of all, I'm not an engineer, so I'm a commercial guy, especially specialized in the marketing and product planning. So please bear in mind in that aspect. And let me start with some background around automotive industry as a whole. Historically, automotive industry carries the most, I think, the most complex role to realize in this society. I mean, playing the integral part of social responsibility as an infrastructure of society. I mean, let's say, in terms of not only personal mobility, but also collective mobility, which is required to fulfill variety of social needs and responsibility, such as the freedom of travel, and environmental friendliness, economy, efficiency, safety, or security. But automotive has a totally different aspect to meet the customer demand because people has a very special, strong attachment to cars as a consumer product. So every single one had their own particular taste about design or performance or luxury, comfort, or fuel economy, or even, let's say, functionality or versatility. And some people say that it's a symbol of status or personal lifestyle. So bear this in mind. Motorsports has been deemed as a laboratory to bring the brand new technology to road cars. And in fact, there are many examples of the technology historically that was brought from the motorsports field, such as aerodynamics and, how should I say, ultimate pursuit of performance and efficiency in two aspects. One is a thermal management. The other is a traction management. So thermal management, as you know, like direct injection system, turbocharger, supercharger, and also hybrid technology. And nowadays, it's no longer thermal management, but recent example is an electrification, battery electric vehicle. It's a kind of energy management. As for traction management, needless to say, it's a traction starting from traction control, an all-wheel drive with torque vectoring system, or even the tire. Development tire is really amazing. It's the only contact between the road and car. So with this small contact patch. The other aspect would be lightweight and safety, such as crushable body or carbon fiber technology or some other materials, or even human-machine interface, such as automatic gearbox or telemetry system. So we are enjoying these benefits, which is originated from the motorsports in nature. But technology also has a strong influence to the back end of the business, like whole development process. The good example is a digital twin in simulation, so which cuts the time and cost quite substantially. And coming back to your question, this is in my view. Yes, technology can further enhance, I would say, the speed, physically, virtually. The good example would be the full integration of data science or deep learning of AI through AI, which will be fully integrated in every single development process, starting from material choice and conceptualization and design, engineering, and also manufacturing, and following even supply chains. That's my view.
Wow. Any of you guys like ever known about any of this before? Like how complicated and how advanced like the technologies that are developed inside of the world of motorsports really are? Thank you so much for your very detailed answer. Right, I really agree with you. I also know myself that motorsport has always been where the world's most consequential technology gets proven before it reaches anywhere else. For example, road cars, like Masamoto-san mentioned, right? So I have two more questions for you. Um, since you're the head of Japan of McLaren Automotive, and I just mentioned earlier that Japan is one of the most sophisticated markets in the world for cars of any type, EV cars, supercars, which you will hear much more about in our other session, especially from Tom's racing session, which will talk about EV. The second question for you, Masamoto-san, McLaren road cars and customer racing sit at the extreme edge of what is technically possible in the production vehicle. So from that vantage point, even though you're a commercial person, I understand, but this one is a technology event. We have a lot of technologies here. So, what is the technology coming out of motorsport right now that you think the rest of the world has not fully understood yet? If you are allowed to pick just one, because I know as a technology person working in motorsport myself, I know that there are plenties, one of which being the tire. Tires are really complex, you guys. So if you can pick one, what would it be? Technology coming out of motorsport right now that you think the rest of the world has not yet fully understood, or something that could actually surprise them, maybe.
Yeah, it's a difficult question because there is no such eye-opening, let's say, new technologies. But let's say, speaking of the McLaren Automotive, we are an expert of handling on the lightweight supercar in the world, which core competence centers around carbon fiber technology. So this is our competitive edge because considering the power in performance in physics, the lightweight solve almost all problems. And also lightweight is the quickest way to win the race in even acceleration, deceleration, cornering speed. And also this is environmentally, well, recently there is some controversy, but in general, lightweight is saving the fuel and also less road damage which is a controversial topic these days among battery electric vehicle. And we are teamed up with University of Sheffield and offering our expertise even to the aerospace and also aviation industries, because this is a pure in-house development nowadays. And another aspect would be, as I mentioned, the thermal management, because every single design of our car has a meaning. Our design concept is so-called form follows function, and every single line falls into the different role, like reducing the aero drag, or increasing the downforce, or improvement of the cooling and thermal management. So this is nothing new, but the degree that we are pursuing this level is so intricate. You'll be amazed once you, let's put, to take a look at the our cars under the hood, because all the air channel is so intricate and has a different, let's say, purpose for cooling or some other functions.
That's cool. I have another question for you, and we have to wrap up really soon. So this one, and after this one, we'll take one question from our audience. So the last question, I mentioned many times that Japan is one of the most technologically sophisticated motorsport market in the world, right? Here we have Honda, Toyota, Toms, for example, Suzuka, decades of engineering culture. And as McLaren's representative here, where do you see the biggest opportunities and where do you see the gaps that still need to be closed? If there's none, feel free to say there's none.
Well, I used to work for Japanese company, US-based company, a German company. But, well, this is my personal opinion. There's not much, let's say, difference in terms of the technological capability. But I would rather say that it's, and that, let's say, the difference lies in the form of organization of people, I would say. So, agile organization unit, quite snappy decision making, and also lean chain of command. And in our case, plus every single employee has a winning mindset with very strong resilience under the constant pressure. So these kind of things are exactly what I believe will be the competitive edge to bring out a cutting edge or epoch-making technology in a very quick, nimble way.
Thank you so much. And do you believe that Japan has enough of the talents that have that kind of resilience that motorsport is like sorely needing? People who are very resilient, people who can like take the most challenging jobs like under immense pressure.
Yes, I think so. I'm a
Yeah.
typical of that.
Ah, wow, I love the answer. I love the answer, you guys. So since we have a lot of speakers today, we have to run the program really tight. I'll just take one question from Masamoto-san for now, and he's gonna stay here for our networking as well, right? So we can ask him other questions later. One question, quick, you guys, hands up.
Question.
Yeah. Four.
Okay, thank you for the speech. I also come from an AI company called ByteDance, and I also a fan of Formula One, and I went to Suzuka this year, and I just sit on the opposite side of Macron. Yeah, so congrats. Yeah. So my question is, because you mentioned digital twin and simulation reducing development time and cost, do you think the same kind of simulation mindset could also change customer experience, motorsports contents, or fun engagement?
That's very valid question. I don't have a clear answer, but nowadays, in Japan, motorsports is perceived as somewhat of, let's say, dirty thing, unlike the other part of the world. Because I was so surprised to visit the British Touring Car Grand Prix a long time ago, and that was amazed because it's a kind of family picnic destination. While in Japan, it's a man world. In other words, there are great opportunity to tap into this business, because nowadays young generation is quite number of young generation is quite let's say increasing in terms of the visitor to the circuit, and they are expecting some luxury experience. So by offering tech-based customer experience and also sophisticated hospitality on the track, there will be a great business popping up from my perspective. That's what I believe, what I'm trying to, let's say, tap into these days.
Thank you so much, Masamoto-san. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your
Thank you
answers.
so much.
I hope that we all learned something today. Yeah, he's gonna stay around. If you have any more questions, you can find him right here. Thank you so much. Next up is Tom's Racing.
My friend, we're going to sit close over there, okay?
Do we have fans of Japanese motorsport here? Ooh, yes, yes, yes. So you know Tom's? Yes, oh, yeah. Would be weird if you don't. Do you have how many Japanese people do we have here actually? Who are Japanese here? Nice. Do you guys are fan of your own motorsport, of your own local motorsport? Super GT, Super Formula. It's really awesome. So like a quick word before we begin. So Tom's, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Tachi Oiwa Motorsport. That's what it stands for. It was founded actually in 1974, and that's over 50 years of Toyota back racing, winning Super GT, Super Formula, and Formula 3 championships. But today, they're not just racing, they are building EV experiences for the public right here in Tokyo Bay. That pivot is exactly what this session is about. And I love it so much. What Masamoto-san just mentioned earlier, and maybe we can explore a little bit more in these sessions if we have time, that motorsports has been seen as something kind of dirty, right? Like how nice is it for us to have the second session right after be about EV. So let me introduce you to the two gentlemen here. We have Tetsuya Fujimoto. He's head of Advanced Technology Development Division of Tom's Racing. And the other person is Takafumi Suzuki. He's a commercial guy. So we get to have perspectives from both sides. How are you feeling today?
Good. Thank you.
Good? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, so first question, like I mentioned, it's a 50 years old company. So what does 50 years of performance vehicle engineering teach you about EV development that a traditional manufacturer doesn't get to learn? I believe this question is more technical, so it'll be for Fujimoto-san.
Okay. I think we have some difficult question today from her. So even in Japanese, yeah. So I'll try to answer in Japanese because we have a good translator here. Yeah. So actually, I was working for Toyota before, maybe opposite company of Google. Yeah. So traditional, very traditional. So I'll try to answer with comparing two companies. Okay. 最初に自動車メーカーとモータースポーツの違いについて話したいと思います。
So I would like to start with the difference between motorsports and automobile industry.
まずですね、自動車メーカーというのは開発と、開発の時間上にあるゲートの意味がモータースポーツと、自動車開発では違うと思います。
So developing a motor car and motorsports has a very different time span in terms of development, which are involving with the gates that are there.
その上で、このモータースポーツの経験から、私たちが今やっている EV の開発で学んでいることの最も重要なことは、開発の進め方を自分たちで考えて、常にアップデートし続ける力です。
And the experience from motorsports that we are now learning upon the development of EV, and most important is the development process itself has to be thought over and always being updated.
自動車メーカーの設計とか自動運転開発の経験も踏まえて少し説明させてください。
And I will explain in detail about with using the experience of dealing with the design and automatic driving development.
自動車メーカーでは10年先を見据えて、数年間、1000人以上の人が関わって1台の車を開発します。
So in a normal automobile developer, there are plans that take about a decade and with thousands of people involved in one car.
法律、コスト、性能など膨大な要件を満たしながら分業体制で進めるので、プロセスがすでに緻密にシステム化されています。
So there is legal, cost, performances. There are so many things that have to be covered and done with several different teams at the same time. The process will be systemized to a very precise degree.
このプロセスの中で最も避けるべきなのはハードウェアの手戻りです。一つのミステイクが数億円の損失や大幅な遅れにつながるからです。
And the one thing that must be avoided the most is the hardware to come back. One mistake could lead to hundreds of thousands, millions in losses and massive delays in the process.
ただし自動車メーカーもそうは言ってもアジャイル的な開発方法を最近は取り入れています。
That is not to say that the automotive industry does not include agile thinking.
しかしダメだったら後で変えればいいという考え方を売った後に適用すれば、それはリコールという最悪の事態を意味します。
But if we apply the idea of we can change it later, if this happens after the product is sold, it will become a recall, the worst thing that could happen.
つまりリリースの10年、20年の安全を過酷な環境下で事前に担保する必要があります。
So this means that the 10 and 20 years of after the release, the safety of that must be done beforehand in various difficult environments.
だからこそ自動車開発におけるゲートというのは巨大な組織の歩調を合わせ確実にエラーを排除して前に進むための絶対的な条件なんです。
So in this case, the gate in automobile development is to have the massive organizations to walk in precision and make sure there are no errors at all. These gates are the walls that protect us.
Okay, let me talk about motorsports finally. And 一方のモータースポーツにおいて関所とはレースそのものです。
In the case of motorsports, the gate is the race itself.
F1 であれば年20回以上、つまり20回以上の本番のリリースがあります。
If the F1, there will be 20 times this race is going to happen in a year. This means 20 times a year there will be the final release.
ここでは正しいデータに基づいてリアルタイムで方向性を判断し、リスクをあぶり出し、次のレースまでに即座に対策を施す必要があります。
In this case, so by the time the next race, it has to be correct data used and use that data to adjust the direction on real time and then find out the risks as soon as possible.
この極限の開発サイクルを回し続けるのがまさにアジャイル開発だと思います。
And this massively intense development cycle, what supports this is agile development.
ここで強調したいのが、モータースポーツのアジャイルを根底で支えているのは、極限の技術を持つメカニックと製造部門だということです。
One thing that has to be must be stated is that the agility of motorsports is supported by highly skilled mechanics and the manufacturing divisions.
彼らの技能なしにはどんな改善も机上の空論に終わります。
Without their skills, any sort of kaizen on the data will be just written on paper.
純粋なソフトウェアのアジャイルとモータースポーツの最大の違いがここにあると思います。
So this is the biggest difference between pure software agility.
毎回が本番というその極限の環境下で最高のパフォーマンスを発揮するためにはどうすればいいか。
So each time the final release in this sort of extreme environment, how to gain the best sort of performance.
組織的な慣れや、先入観を捨ててデータに基づいて必要であればやり方すらも躊躇なく再定義すると。
That is to leave behind whatever inertia that is in the organization and even biases, and then just purely source things on the data, and if necessary, just change how development goes in the first place.
そしてそれを家族のような少数精鋭のチームで一丸となって実行する。
And to do this with a very small team that is almost like a family.
このモータースポーツで培われた文化と俊敏性こそが私たちトムスの EV チームの DNA として深く根付いており、従来の自動車メーカーとは異なる開発の進め方になっていると思います。
So this sort of agility and culture that we have cultured under motorsports, this supports our EV team within Tom's, and this is our DNA, which is completely different from other sort of traditional automobile development.
Thank you so much for a very detailed answers. I believe because I did check like some names on the guest list, I do believe that we have some people here from the traditional automobile makers. By that I mean like non motorsport but automotive, right? We have like someone from BMW or something here. Maybe they haven't arrived.
Or Google automated car.
Yeah. Do you have some here? It's okay. But yeah, aren't you all like a little bit surprised like how extreme it is to be working inside of the motorsport companies? But or maybe it's not so surprising after all, considering how like you have to pretty much like start the new development cycle almost every year, no? Like so yeah, so because in the world of motorsport, right, mainly you manufacture the car for the next racing season. So you have to like maybe take into account the mistakes, things that you have learned from the past season of racing, and then start integrating all the things that you have learned and start working again for the next season right after the current season just ends. I guess it's like kind of like an industry that caters to the people who have hunger for the kind of challenges that are really extreme, right? Love working, like pushing like the boundaries of oneself and also of the technology. So I find that pretty fascinating. I don't know if you guys would agree, but we can talk about that later. Yeah, thank you so much. I have a few more questions. The next one, because I want to introduce our audience to the project that Tom's has started a while ago about the project, the EV motorsport for public. So my next question is, when you design an EV experience for the public, not just for professional drivers, what changes fundamentally in how you approach engineering and the business? Because I asked about engineering and business, so maybe both of you would answer. Who wants to go first?
Okay, let me.
Fujimoto-san.
First, have anyone been experienced with motorsport here? What kind of motorsport? Oh, great. Even in Japan, you are having fun with motorsport. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that. Okay, let me answer. At first, プロだけではなく、一般向けに EV 体験を設計する際に、根本的な変化が生じるかと答えは Yes です。
So when designing an EV experience for normal people, not professionals, will there be a fundamental change? The answer is completely yes.
最大のブレイクスルーは体験を提供する場所の制約から解放されたことです。
So the biggest breakthrough is the limitation of the place for delivering this this experience.
これまで遠く離れたサーキットに行かなければできなかった体験が、都市部や閉鎖環境、イベント、会場といった日常のすぐ近くで提供できるようになりました。
So, so this experience where you used to have to go to the circuits outside of the city now could be done in the cities, in the enclosed environments, at event spaces, and which would be very close to the day-to-day life.
Actually, we have a racetrack in Odaiba near here. So, have anyone been there? Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. EV の加速性能は最高だと思いますので、もし腕自慢の方がいらっしゃれば、ぜひこの後私と競争しましょう。
As EV cars are very good at accelerating, if there are people who are good at driving, please come and join us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that picture. Yeah, this is a place in Odaiba near here.
We don't have time to show the video for all of you guys, but if you're interested, you can scan the QR code right here and see this video.
まあ、乗れると、もうこれ乗れるということと、実際に乗るということの間には大きな心理的障壁がまだまだあると、それでも思います。
There are still a massive psychological difference between being able to read and actually writing. Right.
EV のビジネスをしている一方で、隠す必要もないので言いますが、私はうるさくてガソリンや溶けたタイヤの匂いがするモータースポーツも愛しています。
Well, there is no hiding this, so I'll say this: the loud and the gasoline and tire rubber smelly motorsports is something that I love the most.
T から始まる某自動車会社の会長も以前同じようなことを言っていました。
Another company, other company's director, whose name starts with T, once said the same thing.
Yeah, not Tesla.
We're not talking about Tesla.
でも、プロの限界能力に合わせて極限まで調整された従来のエンジンカートは初めての人にとってはとても恐怖になり得ます。
But for the traditional engine carts that are been designed for the maximum limits of the professionals' abilities, for the people who are doing it for the first time, this is very scary.
そこで私たちはただ EV にするだけではなくて、システムで工夫をしました。例えば通信システムを搭載して、システム側で車が制御可能になっています。
So we completely changed the approach. So we added to a telecommunication systems and into the car to control them.
ですので、ただ近くにカート場ができたというだけではなくて、システムで安心感を提供するというところに注力しています。
So not just the racing courses are near where people live. We also cover the system and the safety on the system side of things.
なので、多くのお客さんが来ていただくということによって、従来のモータースポーツとは違う人たちが会場に訪れるようになりました。
By having just many people to come, we are able to deliver a completely new motorsports experience.
そこではバーベキューをしたり、お酒を飲んだりすることもできます。
Like doing barbecues, drinking, having fun.
ですので、この EV という車を作るというだけではなくて、ビジネスモデル、エンターテインメントの形そのものが変わるということになります。
So not just developing EV, but also on the business side, we are going to change it completely.
Thank you so much. We have two more questions. Sadly, we're running out of time because we have like so many speakers. So we'll go really quickly. Question number 3. Where does AI fit into what you are building, whether in the development process or the experience itself? We are at Google, so we have to talk about AI. It could be Fujimoto-san, it could be Takafumi-san. Technology guys, so.
Okay, let me answer in English now. Okay. So now we have a human-centered motorsport. We drive a car and many fans are watching motorsport. But in some countries, we see automated AI driving motorsport in Saudi Arabia or like that. So we need to think about the future motorsport with AI for sure. And I'm thinking it every day. But with AI, we also need a human driver with AI. at first, by my opinion, because only AI drives car, who can have fun with that racing by watching it. Yeah, that's yeah. Some robot driving around and no one watches. So we need to be mixed to drive the car more fast or more safe, even under the night condition in Nürburgring or like that. Yeah, that's a first step, by my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. We have a lot of AI technology enthusiasts here. I'm sure you will receive a lot of questions after this during the networking. The very last one, though, very important. I would like to give the audience a little bit of context. Here's something that might surprise a lot of people. Japan, one of the most technologically advanced countries on earth, home to Toyota and Honda and Tom's, for example, has an EV sales penetration rate of just 4%. Anyone ever heard about this fact before? The global average is 25%. The reason isn't just infrastructure, like no charger in the apartments buildings, but Japanese consumers have a strong preference for domestic brands. And those brands haven't gone all in on EVs, so hybrids have filled the gap instead. Tom is trying to change the relationship people have with electric performance at the experience level, as we can see from this project, for example. So my very last question for our commercial guy, Takafumi-san. My very last question is, can that actually move culture since, like I said, Japan has a complicated relationship with EV adoption? Do you think experiences like the ones Tom is creating can shift that culturally?
いいですかね。ご指摘の通り、日本は非常にEV の普及ということに関しては、複雑な環境にあるということは私たちも理解をしています。
As you said, there are multiple levels of problems inside the issue of EV, the spread of EV in Japan.
僕が喋ろうと思ってたんだけど、彼が先に言っちゃった部分が多いんですが、一方で一定の小さな移動体とか小型のモビリティとか、私たちが取り組んでいるカート EV のカートに関しては、まだまだ可能性があるというふうに考えています。
So, well, he already said, as Fujimoto-san has already said before, what we are thinking that is that there is still space for small forms of mobility, like the cars that we are creating as a urban mobility system.
例えば、ハンディキャップのある方とか、高齢な方が、移動するラストワンマイルの移動手段としては、可能性が高いというふうに考えています。
So, for example, for people with handicaps or people who are the elderly who need that one last mile mobility, we think this is very functional.
こういった医療とか福祉領域というのは当然私たちの会社では単体ではやりきれないところがあるので、ぜひ協力できる会社と協力していきたいというふうに考えています。
So in this medical or perhaps social services areas, we alone cannot expand into these areas. So we are looking for partners who will help us expand into these areas.
同時にあとさっきご紹介させていただいた CCTV というものも活用しながらこういったモデルを複数展開していくということも予定しています。
And like in the CCTV, as we have introduced, we are intending to use this model and expand this in multiple locations and expand water source as much as possible.
基本的にはみんなにモータースポーツを楽しんでも安全にモータースポーツを楽しんでもらうための場所として提供していきます。
So basically, this is a space where people can access motorsports as safely as possible, and that is our goal.
最終的には、その結果、多くの、レーシングドライバーを育てていく、一つの通過点として活用していきたいというふうに考えています。
And if this is eventually leads to more drivers who actually enter the world of motorsports, this will be a very good thing for us.
トムスはレーシングチームとしての活躍が国内では目立っていますが、安全とその楽しさというところを両軸で伝えていって、多くの人にモビリティとモータースポーツの楽しみをこれからも伝えていきたいというふうに考えています。
While Tom's is well known in Japan as a racing team, what we are also wanting to do is to, through our safety and actual speed, we want to have introduced mobility and motorsports to many as much as possible.
以上です。
That is all.
Thank you so much. We're running a little bit over time, but really, I still want to give the opportunity to you guys to ask like any of them like one question. Please make it like really quick, really brief.
Yeah, I'll try to make it short, but I actually have 2 points. All right. One is I've been an EV user for 5 years in Japan, and I think it's built up that combustion has always been or hybrids has been the way of mobility in Japan, and obviously the fear that of using a EV vehicle is very inconvenient or potentially dangerous. So I think this plays a very small role in helping people understand EVs, but I think it requires push by major automotive makers. Now, the second thing is I actually work in the geotechnologies and automotive industry as well. And one thing I actually noticed that is very different in Japan compared to a lot of other countries is obviously Tom's playing a role in, racing and drifting as well. And I think the drifting scene here was very big in the past, but it's sort of fragmented. You have many different organizations like Tom's and Sunny and so on, right? The challenge is in the technology used to actually measure the accuracy or how to grade the drifting outcomes, right? And I think unifying that will be able to make the community more mature, which is sort of shrinking right now. So do you have a plan in Tom's to make it more unified, more mature environment, something like drift kings in America or in other countries, so they can compete better? Yeah, for this question, yes.
Drifting. Do they have a plan of making the drifting scene more competitive? Remember, guys, keep the questions short so we can translate, all right? Thank you so much.
Bit difficult question for us, even in Japanese, to answer. But by EV card or any other our business, through our business, there's a lot of children growing up through motorsport, and they learn how to be kind with other drivers on the track. So maybe there will be a good driver on drifting or some other series of motorsport in the future. That's one of the biggest dream, not only for Formula or GT, but also drifting or other kind of motorsport or other kind people. That will be our business mind. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to wrap up now. Sorry, because the next session, I think it's gonna be like the most exciting session, especially considering where you guys coming from. A lot of us here are technologists. We have the father of GT, Sophy. I'm super excited personally to finally meet the person who gave birth to Gran Turismo, Sophy. So, okay, without further ado, I'll hand over the mic to my co-host Lee Jin for the next session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. Okay, so next up, we are going to invite three amazing speakers to this stage. First up is Kenta Kawamoto. Like Maprang said, he is the founder of Sophy GT, right? Sophy A. Welcome, Kenta Kawamoto. Give him a round of applause, guys. Then next up, we're going to have Max Frenzel, who is the CTPO of Track Titan, a company that is building AI-enabled coaching for racing drivers. Max, welcome. Thank you so much. And then we have a real racing driver with us today, guys. His name is Ukyo Sasahara. He is a Red Bull racing driver from the Super GT and GT Formula Race Series here in Japan. Welcome, welcome. Let's get these guys some microphones. Yes. All right. Excellent, guys. So how this is going to work in this session, I will speak to one speaker and dive a little bit deeper and then move on to the next speaker, and then we'll do cross-panel discussion, okay? So first up, we're going to speak with Kenta-san, okay? So GT Sophy beat the best human drivers in GT racing. Walk us through that moment, what that moment meant to you, not as a technical milestone, but as a statement about where AI is.
Thank you. So hear me? Okay. So thank you for the question. The key moment for me is that it's not that it achieved superhuman, but that it is that watching how it achieves that, because the way AI solves the problem is quite different from what humans do. So during the training, the AI would take actions, some really stupid actions which human driver would never consider, like suddenly reverse gear at the top speed, or those kind of every stupid thing. And the AI doesn't care about failures. It just tries everything, and from both success and failure, it learns. It just continue to improve itself. So that's really a different thing. So that's and finally it achieves superhuman, some really optimal things. So that's the current state where AI is.
That's a little scary, isn't it? Throwing in reverse, going top speed. That's crazy because there's nobody driving it, right? It feels like it can do whatever it wants, right? So that's a little scary. So when Sophy was learning to drive, you know, was there anything that it figured it out that your team hadn't anticipated?
Well, as a really high level, meta level, there's no surprise because we know that AI will find something that surprises us. So, but if you look at every actions for some solutions, there are some, of course, some surprise. Just an example, I already told you about the stupid things. So not this time, not stupid some, but clever things. For example, first, we just try to let it run fast and complete the lap as fast as possible. We didn't forbid wall hitting because we thought that, okay, if the car hits the wall, it will spin out and it will lose time. But actually, GT Sophy finds really good timing and speed and angle to hit the wall to quickly turn the vehicle to the right position and makes a really fast lap. So we need to change the rule. Of course, it's a common sense, but we need to say that you shouldn't do that. So we need to follow the.
Yeah, I mean, racing is very dynamic. You know, in the moment there might be something that you have to, have that human instinct to be able to, get out the way or something like that, right? So an AI is just going off data, so it's like, it has to do things that you tell it to do. There's a difference between a machine that beats a human and one that understands what it's doing, right? Where does Sophy sit on that line?
Well, I think Sophy is in a interesting position. So it depends. Of course, to me, it understands everything because actually it can fast control very well in every situation. So without any understanding, it cannot do that, of course. But at the same time, the way it solves the problems, it sees the situation, it's completely different from humans. So in that sense, I'm not so sure. It understands the things just the same way as we see.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. So I want to end on this last question here. So if you had to predict which human domain gets its GT Sophy moment next, where AI clearly operates at or above elite human level, what would that look like?
Well, I think eventually it will come in every domain, and at a different speed, of course, but it will come. But if I need to pick a pattern and not domain, then it's the most complex domain. So the way AI solves the complexity, that's totally different. And in human case, we cannot handle complex situations. So there's a word, say, divide and conquer or something. So we need to divide and simplify things and make solutions and step by step. That's the way we do. And we are limited to that. AI doesn't have that constraints. So in a domain that's really complex and our approach is limited, in that domain, AI will dominate human. That's my prediction.
Thank you so much for your answers. Now I want to switch gears, okay, and talk to Max over here, okay? So Max, Track Titan sits between the AI and the driver. Describe that position. What does it actually look like when a driver opens your platform after a session?
Yeah, thank you. And maybe I should first say we actually owe a lot to Gran Turismo. 2 of our team members are former GT Academy winners and started their career there. So thanks a lot for that. At the core right now, we're an AI coaching platform for racing drivers, focusing on sim, but also having real world ambitions there. And the way it works is while you're driving the sim, and we're supporting a lot of different titles from the F1 games on the more casual end to iRacing and AC on the more kind of hardcore simulation end. We record your data, we record your telemetry, and after the session, you come to our app and we give you an analysis of the laps you drove. We tell you kind of where you lost time and also why you lost time. And that's really the important part, right? We don't only show you the data and tell you, hey, here in this corner, at this point, you lost time, but we tell you exactly what was the mistake you made and how can you next time improve that. We're also working on real-time coaching. So while you're in the sim, we have an overlay where you can compare yourself to a reference lap of like a different driver, which we choose dynamically based on a lot of different conditions on your skill level. And this is actually a really interesting piece, which we might go into a little bit as well. The real-time coaching is very challenging because giving the right advice is not the only thing that matters. You have to figure out a lot of different things like the right timing. Does the driver have the cognitive capacity at the moment? Like if you watch F1, you often hear like drivers complaining to their race engineers, leave me alone, I can't focus on that right now, I need to focus. So there's also actually these different pieces, right? Getting the right kind of advice and giving this to the right driver in the right way at the right time.
Yeah, it sounds very, very complex. So just in terms of like having an overlay, would it be like in their helmet or something, or in the car, or how's that look?
So right now, this is focused, the overlay purely on the sim part of it. So as you're driving, there's literally like on your screen, there's an overlay you can see, which is basically right now showing you your brake trace and your throttle trace. You know, basically those two, which are really the 2 key channels for a driver. And we're comparing that to a reference lap. So it might be a very fast driver that we're comparing ourselves to. So especially as you're getting used to a new track, for example, you see, okay, what's the right braking point? And you can immediately see, oh, I brake too late, or I brake too early in this, or kind of how do I apply the throttle out of that corner correctly? Those kind of things.
I see. All right, excellent. So where do drivers accept the feedback most readily, and where do they push back and ignore it? Because I assume that, you know, the driver feels like they know the car well, right? They know the track well. So where do they push back on the AI?
It's a really interesting question. It kind of gets maybe to the core of like the difficulty of what we're doing. Kind of like I mentioned already earlier, you have to adjust your feedback to the driver. You have to match their skill level. If I would compare myself to, for example, Ukyo-san's lap, this might not be a good idea for me because I don't have the right skill. Maybe I have a different driving style. So making sure we understand the driver and match the feedback to them. But maybe very concretely, like one thing that we see so much, the single most common error that our models predict and that we see on our platform is braking too late. Drivers think a very aggressive style is very fast because it feels fast, you're very aggressive. Teaching drivers that actually a smoother driving style is much faster, that's one of the most challenging things. It feels slow because, well, it's more smooth, it's not as aggressive, but actually you might lose a little bit of time into the corner, but you're gaining so much time out of the corner. So that's just one example of things that I think drivers need to really internalize, that what feels fast is not necessarily fast.
Interesting. That leads me to my next question, which is, has AI ever shown a driver something about their driving that they found genuinely hard to accept?
I think it's again on a similar note. It's really when your perception doesn't match what the model predicts or what the coach is telling you. And there we also have to meet the driver a little bit in the middle, because the best advice we give is useless if they don't actually use the advice. We kind of have to figure out what can we tell them that resonates with them, that's actionable. So again, if we tell them something that's 100% accurate, but they can't actually act on that, it's useless advice. So that's kind of how I think about this.
Excellent, excellent. And you're essentially in the business of translating data into behavior change, right? So what makes that translation succeed or fail?
Really meeting the driver where they are and what they need in the moment. And it's a really contextual piece of understanding the skill level correctly, even understanding things like the conditions. So if we compare ourselves to a different reference lab, our system takes, for example, variables like track temperature, air temperature into account. Like, I don't give you a reference lap that's meaningless for you. It might look extremely fast, but actually the conditions were much faster. Maybe the car was much lighter on fuel. Really understanding all this contextual information and not just giving this one size fits all approach or coaching, but personalizing it to every single user.
Excellent, excellent. So now let's hear from an actual driver. Hello, Ukyo. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Excellent. So Ukyo, I have a couple questions for you. When you're at the limit in the race, right? When you're fully in it, okay? What are you actually aware of in that moment, and what's conscious and what isn't?
これ日本語で喋ってもいいですか
Let me repeat the
Maybe
question.
easier.
Yeah. So when you're at the limit in a race, like you're fully in it, you're going full speed, what are you actually aware of?
限界に来て、それでフルスピードになってる時に何を感じていますか？
ドライバーは、走ってる時に、いわゆるその目で、その視界で何を今どこでブレーキ踏むとか、そういう感覚を一番頼りにしてるわけなんですよね。で、特に結局これはずっとドライバーの中でも話題になるんですけど、いろんなセットアップだったり、いろんな車だったり、いろんなドライビングスタイルがあるけれど、結局はタイヤをどう感じてるか、それに対して車がどういう動きをしてるかってことが大事で、そこを特に感じることっていうか、そこが一番大事なポイントになってくるかなっていうのはあります。
All right, you can summarize that for you. Yes.
So for drivers, there's a lot of information that's coming to the eyes and other senses, and then what ends up being important is when to use the brakes. And when this becomes a common topic between drivers, they all talk about setups, they all talk about driving styles, and they all say other things. But at the end, they all agree with how to deal with the tires and how you feel the tires.
Yeah, for many of us who are not racing, right? We're not used to racing. When he says something like feel tires, like how do we know that, right? How do we know what tires feel like, right? Only it takes many hours and hours behind the wheel to get that sense of the car. Do you think AI could ever get that same feeling?
難しいですね。でも、いろんなタイプのドライバーがいて、いろんなその表現の仕方が違うんですよ、人によって、ドライバーって。ただ感じてるものっていう 最終的なところだったりするのは一緒だったりすることは多いので、まあそのドライバーが感じたこと、言葉を、まあうまく何とつなげる、それがどこなのかっていうところを的確に、まあまず、まあ一人のドライバーにもそれができることがあれば、まあそういう表現できていくことは徐々にできていくかなと。ただ本当に、なんだろう、僕らプロドライバーで、プロの中でもものすごく感じてるもの、感じてることがもう人によって本当に違う。で、最近では、例えば、こう、なんだろうな、企業の、まあ、社長さんとか会長さんみたいな、すごくこう優秀なトップの方がこう趣味として車のレースを始めたり、ドライビングをもっと上手くなりたいっていうことをやってて、その方たちの表現を聞いて、そう自分たちはいつもそのコーチングとかそういう役割をするんですけど、すごくそこって難しいなというか、結局その彼らが感じてることをどう自分たちもつなげるかっていうことがいつも苦戦してて、そこがまあなんか今後の課題になってくるかなっていうのは思います。
You can summarize that.
So this is a difficult question. He already said that, and there are various drivers, and there are various ways to say this. But in the end, most of the time they feel the same. But the problem becomes how to express this and how to understand what the other person is trying to express. And so professional drivers will use various different ways of saying this. And there's this recent experience that where many CEOs of companies start driving as a hobby, and they start asking for professional drivers to teach them how to drive faster. And then there's that moment of understanding what the other person is saying and trying to turn that into expression that the driver can actually explain to these CEOs is always difficult. So the AI thing is going to be the same sort of difficulty at the end of the day.
It's going to be really hard to explain what that feeling feels like, right? Yeah, it's really, really hard, right? Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you, Ukyo. When someone shows you data about your lap time afterwards, does it match what you remember feeling? And where does it kind of split? Yeah. For example, it could be lap time, could be, sector times, it could be braking, right? When you see that data, does it feel like it's true or does it feel different? Yeah.
まあ本当にそれが同じコンディションとか全て同条件であったら、なんだろうな、まあ理解できるというか自分たちも、まあ特にさっきAI はやっぱり多分その状況下でこれを設定した時にはこれが一番最速であるって出すのはドライバーよりも間違いなく早いと思うんですよ。すぐまあそれを表現できる。けど実際現実に起きてることっていうのは常に状況は刻々と変化してて、例えばさっきの1コーナー100メーターでブレーキ踏みました。ここでハンドル切りました。ここでアクセル踏みましたってことが、このコンディションだから言えるけど、じゃあ次の周回行った時に、同じサーキット上に40台、50台違う車が走ってて、同じようなコンディションになってるかっていうと、そうではないんですよね。だからそこの状況にアダプトして、結局そこで、まあ、なんだろうな、その状況下に合わせてどうやって速く走ってるかっていうのはドライバー常にやってることなので、たまにそこで、まあ、なんだろうな、そのデータを見たときに、ここはちょっと違うかなとか、ここは現実今ここで起きてる限界値ってここだよねっていうところは、まあ、いくつかあるかなっていうのは思います。
So if you to answer the question, if the conditions are always the same, in AI will be always better at giving out the correct information. So if this data is using the same condition as possible, the data is believable. But But in reality, a race is not always going to have the same condition. Even just going after one lap, in the next lap, we'll have the condition completely different because there's so many cars running, the temperatures is changing, the weather is changing. And then because of that, drivers always have to adapt to new conditions all the time. Yeah.
That's a good gist. I think that's so true. You know, like you can have data from one lap or another lap, but then the tires warm up and it's a completely different situation, right? Or it could be, for example, that you know, it rained and now the track is wet. Now what do you do, right? The AI can't tell you or, you know, anticipate that type of situation. So I 100% resonate with that. Okay, so for this last round, I want to open up the questions to the group so anyone can answer. Okay. You know, Kawamoto-san, you build AI that surpasses humans. Max builds AI that serves humans. Ukyo-san, you are a human, okay? All right. Is there tension between those three positions, or does it actually fit together? Maybe get anyone's perspective here. Yeah.
Well, I can start it off and then hand over. I actually don't think there is a tension. I think it's quite exciting in a way. Like superhuman AI, I think tells us what's the limit, what's ultimately possible. And looking at any other field where similar superhuman achievements have happened, I think that raised the skill ceiling for the humans because they realize what's possible and learn new techniques, learn new tactics. And I think for me, translating the data into something that's useful for humans that drivers can act on is very exciting because we can maybe look at what an AI racing line looks like and maybe give a human insights on how they can improve theirs without becoming a machine. So those are just some thoughts around that.
Yeah, it's the same. And there's also feedback from human to AI. So don't just hit the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Save tires. So
Save
it's not
tires,
just one lap. So yeah, so there's always feedback. So it's a loop to improve the system.
That's a good feedback loop. And Ukyo, do you feel that, you know, if you were to get coaching or data from AI, would you take it on, like willingly, or how willing are you to take on that data? Yeah.
間違いなく活用すると思います。やっぱり、レーシングドライバーって結局のところ今何をやってるかっていうと、自分のデータと比較することももちろんですけれど、もう、なんだろう、例えば、まあ、今週そのスーパーフォーミュラっていうレースが行われるんですけど、そこにいる20人、22人、全員の今ここで走ってるデータをライブで比較できることならしたい。まあ、それぐらいこう、なんだろうな、常にその今あるもののベストの中からどうすればこれをベストに近づけられるかってこと、まあ、例えばオンボード映像だったりそういうのも全部比較したりとかして見るので、間違いなくその AI が、まあ、いわゆるこの中こういう状況下で設定した時にこれがベストっていうのを多分間違いなく自分たちが今思っててこう探していくよりも早く到達できる可能性はあるので、それを常に絶対活用はしたいなっていうのは思います。で、特に多分、まあわかんないですけど、今後、まあ10年、20年後、特にその、まあさっき言ってた自分のドライバーが感じている言葉っていうものと、まあその AI のものをうまく本当にリンクさせることができれば、自分の、なんだろう、パーソナルエンジニアじゃないけど、まあ本当にそのドライビングコーチっていうのと、あと車に対するエンジニアっていうものの、なんかその次のステップにいるこう存在がなんかできそうかなって思うので、なんかそれを活用できる人たち、ドライバーが今後また速くなっていくのかなっていうのは自分で感じています。Sorry for long.
I'll translate. It's okay. I'll translate. Okay, so in short, he will use it. I will use it, and for drivers, they're not just the only data against himself. Well, the past data, he wants to like compare like 20 racers in all this, in a race in a super formula race. So he just always wants his current best to become more best than ever. So he's always watching the onboard cameras. He's always looking at all this data and data and data. So if the AI can bring up the best in a certain situation and using that to overcome the current best of his own, yes, he will use this AI. And in a decade, in decades, maybe 1 decade, 2 decades later, when the words of the driver links up with the AI, there will become an age that will become a driver's personal coach. And it's going to be another next step beyond that. So as a driver, he thinks that a driver, the next generation driver that is going to be very fast, is going to be a driver that uses it.
Wow. That's surprising, actually, because we figure it's something that is intuitive to a driver, right? But he's actually saying that, drivers that use AI to, prepare will actually be in a better shape than ones that don't. So that kind of translates to other fields that we're all in, right? People who don't use AI are going to be replaced by people who do use AI. Just a quick question before we get to some more of these. Do you think you'll ever race against like a non-human driver on the track ever? Is that possible in your mind? Do you think that?
どうなんだろう。ごめんなさい、もう一回質問翻訳してもらっていいですか。
質問ですか。
はい。
質問の方は、いずれ AI とトラック上で物理的にレースすることがいずれ来るであろう。AI ですね、人間じゃないドライバー。
いずれかは来ると思います。現に実際、なんだろう、AI で、本当にドライバー乗せないで、ドライバーなしのレースで行われているレースは実際にもうすでにあって、それが本当にその人間が走ったラップと AI が走ったラップ、本当に実際のサーキットと同じ車でやったときに、どんどん差が少なくなってて、ちゃんと速く走れてとかできてることはあるので、そこはもう割と近い将来できる可能性はあるかなと思ってます。ただそれが面白いかどうかはわからないです。
So he says that day will come someday, but already there are races with AIs that there's no drivers, so those AI only races. And as the technology is developing on the circuit, there is less and less and less differences between humans and AI. But so it will come in the very near future. That's how he believes. With one caveat, would that be fun?
Definitely not, right? Definitely not. What do you guys think about that? Do you ever see, because GT Sophy, for example, is beating people in Gran Turismo, the most realistic racing simulator out there, right? Do you see a point where, we're racing against AIs at all or anything like that? Maybe a bunch of Tesla robocabs, on a track or something like that? What do you think?
Well, technically, yeah, the day will come quite soon. For business or fun, it's hard to tell.
Right, right. For
Maybe.
business case, there's really no business case for it, right? All right, so let's end on this session. I want you to think about the motorsports industry 5 years from now. Okay, what's the thing you're most uncertain of? Not afraid of, but just genuinely you don't know the answer to. Let's start with Max. Yeah.
It's a really difficult question, and I don't really have a good answer for the motorsport industry specifically. I mean, as someone leading a startup, as startup executive, I think a lot about org design, how teams work together, like what engineers will be doing, all these kind of things. That's kind of what I have most uncertainty about. Maybe what I'm curious about in this bigger AI coaching space or kind of how AI interacts with humans is the biological level. Like right now, we're not integrating any of biosensors, for example, into that. Can we understand the stress levels of a driver? And maybe we give them advice when they're sort of in the right cognitive state, when they have the right cognitive load to actually be perceptible to that. That's just something that comes to mind that I'm more curious and excited than uncertain about. I'm sure it will come. I don't know when or how, but yeah.
Okay, excellent. Kenta?
Well, yeah, just the same. I'm not really familiar with motorsport itself, so I cannot tell specifically what's motorsport in 5 years, but more in broader, maybe AI side or something. And what I'm not sure is, people people rely on AI because it's useful, and yeah, it's accurate maybe than you, or sometimes gradually people will use more and more AIs. So in this society increasingly shaped with AI, so what I'm not sure is diversity. The diversity is lost, or we still maintain diversity because of the problem setting or that kind of thing. Why diversity matters? So I am working on AI, and it's basically optimization. And there's a lot of situations that unexpected situations, even optimal in those situations. Robustness is important. Robustness comes from diversity. So if diversity is lost, the solution can be optimal at this really moment, but really poor. And I don't want to see the human society be in that trap. So that's what I'm not so sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Actually, I just had a thought on that as well. Maybe it's a better answer, and it's very short. And we had a question about fan engagement earlier. I think fan engagement is actually going to be really interesting in motorsports over the next few years with AI and everything.
Excellent. That's a really exciting topic. Any fans of motorsport here? Hopefully everybody. Yes, yes. Okay, good. Excellent. All right. And yes, any final words, Ukyo, about that? Anything else? All good?
いや、特にはないんですけれど。
All good? Okay, excellent. I do have one question because we have many maybe potential founders here, right? So one question from me before I get to the audience is, what is a glaring problem that any startup founder here could be solving in motorsports or AI coaching or something like that? Anyone? Any ideas?
I think it's a huge space. There's a lot of interesting problems to be solved. Fan engagement, I just mentioned, I think that's a huge, huge space that's currently wide open. How you engage with motorsport in general. I mean, we as a company, ultimately, we want to be the operating system for motorsport and build almost a Strava for motorsports. This whole community aspect, I think, is very, very interesting. The whole career progression, like track days, amateur motorsports, it's huge, but most people don't know about it and don't know how to get into it. So that's another huge area. I think that's very interesting, how to break into motorsport in the first place. Those are just some random ideas.
Yeah, it seems like a very closed off network, right? You have to have the right relationships in order to get it. That's why what Matt Prang is doing is very interesting, and we'll hear from her next. But anything on your side in terms of technology? Any problems that you have that a founder maybe could solve?
Well, understanding the player, I mean, in case of Turismo, so GT Sophy is not designed only for a single user at the moment, but there is potential desire for that, of course. Ukyo-san said that he wants to have some personalized AI. So understanding human user, that's also difficult. I mean, translate to a problem setting that AI can understand and solve. So that part, what kind of data to collect and how to formulate that, that's a space, I guess.
So collecting data from drivers so that you can improve your models to help them out. Excellent, good. Okay, let's open up questions from the audience. Yes, can somebody, my prank, can you help me? Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, and great talk. As someone who's been in AI for about 30 years, I'd like to answer one question you asked, and that is, there's no way AI is going to replace human in car racing or any other racing. Like just now, a few weeks ago, the robots beat humans' record by about 7 minutes in mini marathon. They did it in 50 minutes. Last year, they did it in 2 hours. We are not going to stop running. We're not going to stop marathon. It will never be replaced. We're going to be together, hybrid. And as long when a robot or AI is a challenge to human, we're going to compete. Once they're way better than us, well, you guys do your thing, we're going to do our thing. Computer chess beat human decades ago. All the chess tournaments are there. We stand zero chance against computers. I mean, against computer playing chess, but we all competing. So I can guarantee you it's no challenge to human. We are not going to be replaced. We're going to be together, working together.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for giving me so much knowledge. This is my first time to hearing this kind of a knowledge. Okay, so I was thinking that, for example, you doing tracking of the race. So basically, if you doing the same thing, I'm sure some other race team, they are going to the similar things too, right? So if every team is already tracking race data, then what makes one team perform better than the others? Is it the AI, the quality of the data, or the driver decisions?
It's a very good question. I think it's the interplay between those, right? How do you translate the data into something that's useful to the driver you're working with? And that might actually vary from driver to driver as well. Like the coaching approach has to change across these as well. Personally speaking, for us, what is very interesting, we collect data across different simulations, across different drivers, across different teams. Our users are currently recording around 150,000 laps per day. That's 1 million kilometers of racing data we get every single day. So from our perspective, we have the breadth, right? Like ideally, so there's not a single team. Can we provide services to these that can translate across these? But yeah, maybe more to your question, I really think it's the in-between. It's not just the data, it's not just the driver, it's how you translate this to make it actionable to the driver.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your insightful comments. And yes, that's it for this session. So give them a round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll have you guys come back over. Leave the microphones on there. All right. For our next session, we will invite Maprang back to the stage, as well as Koji Ron Obara. Koji was recognized as Japan's fastest safety car driver. And he has experience racing on tracks such as the Nürburgring in Japan. In Germany. Anyone know the Nürburgring? Nürburgring? Yeah, it's the longest track in the world. Very, very hardest track. We have a real racing driver who's been on that track. Give him a round of applause, guys. Give him a round of applause. All right, excellent. So, yes, I'm going to be next. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
All right.
I am the most fastest safety car driver. Koji Obara. Nickname is Long. Thank you.
All right, excellent, excellent.
I've been invited as a greatest speaker today. Normally, I am immersed in the extreme world of the racetrack, where every tenth of a second counts. But today, I've been really looking forward to talking with you all about the future of speed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very great. I love it. I love it. Awesome. All right. So we're going to start. I'm going to ask them questions back and forth, okay? And they'll give their answers. So, Maprang, most people think motorsport is about speed, right? You're saying the real competition happens somewhere else entirely. Where is that?
Okay, yeah, it's also about speed for sure. But actually, it's a kind of race that depends on so many other factors prior to the racing season, if you know about it. And especially we have some Formula One fans here. I'm sure that if you have like watched the game for a long time, you know that it's not quite a fair sport, especially at that level. There's a lot of heavy investment involved, and usually at that level, like Formula One, it's all about the capital. Who has the more capital? But then there's also some other interesting cases, like for example, in the local motorsport of Japan, that usually the determining factors for winning comes from somewhere else. So yeah, to Lee's question earlier, the real determining factor, as far as I can see, and as far as I have been told also by some of the insiders in the industry, depends actually on how creatively you can interpret what the regulations really say in order to come up with the design that within the legal terms, within the regulations, but so smart in an engineering type of way that you actually get the effect, the aerodynamics effect that is not at all intended by the regulations. And also, I think it's a really challenging and really fascinating problem. That's the reason why I founded this company, Checkmate AI. And we regulatory technology right now, we hope to actually help motorsport in other aspects as well. But this is the first factor. This is the first problem, the first challenge that we'll look at and we try to tackle because it's not all about speed. The race actually really happens before the actual race.
Yeah, it sounds like that, especially in something like Formula One, you have all these rules, a big rule book, extremely, thick, that people try to manipulate and find loopholes for. And it sounds like your company helps them do just that, right?
Yeah, actually, that's the pitch. That's the narrative I sell to everybody that I ever meet. But since this is my own event, I'll be really honest. I'll tell you guys the truth. Right now, that narrative is far too simple. But it's an easy to sell narrative because if I ever get to talk to any motorsport fans, that's also something that they kind of know that all the teams are trying the very best they can to find the loopholes within the regulation to creatively interpret the rules in certain ways that they can argue later with the regulatory body that they actually play within the rules, the boundaries, the margin of errors. In the world of motorsport, it's called tolerance. The idea that's really interesting about tolerance in the world of motorsport, tolerance stack, is when you actually combine all the different measurements. So each measurement has some margin of error, right? And once you combine all the margin of errors, you line them up so perfectly, you'll be able to oftentimes come up with the kind of design that actually give you like extra advantage that the kind of extra advantage that once you like break all the components, all the different rules down, you can argue that you don't really break any rules. I don't know if that explanation kind of makes sense. So you stacked all the margin of errors from every measurement, the tolerance stack that can actually allows you to creatively come up with the design that gives the kind of aerodynamic effect that's so not intended by the regulators at all. So yeah, hopefully that's like a little bit of like interesting information.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Koji-san, you spent 20 years leading the fastest cars in Japan at speed. From a position no engineer, no team principal, and no race director occupies in quite the same way. What does race day actually feel like from where you sit?
For 30 years, my office has been like between the track walls, leading the fastest car in Japan. From where I sit, race day is not about date. It's about pure energy and tension. 日本語でセーフティーカーの中にいると、後方にいる全マシンのドライバーの先やピット全体の焦燥感がエンジニアの無線越しではなく、空気の振動でダイレクトに伝わってきます。天候が変わる瞬間、路面のグリップが変わる瞬間、データが弾き出す前に、私の体がそれを察知しています。それが僕の視点です。
When you're in the safety car, you can feel all the drivers behind you, their intensity, the pit, the sense of frustration, anxiety that is coming from the pit. And you feel that not beyond the intercoms from the engineers, but you directly feel it in the shape of how the air vibrates. When the weather changes, when the grip on the road changes, my body feels the change even before the data can come up. That is my point of view.
Excellent. Wow, that's really interesting. And he's leading all these the fastest drivers in the world. He literally feels their tension behind them. It's insane. I can only imagine what they would feel like. All right, Matt Prang, this question is for you. I want you to help us understand, what gray zone actually is, not in technical terms, but in human terms, so everyone can understand, okay? And there's one point that I really want to push on is the problem really that teams can't find gray zones, or is there something keeping them from doing that? Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, right, in the previous question, and that I lie a little. I've been lying the whole time because it's the easiest narrative to sell, and it's something that some motorsport fans will already know about, that the race actually begins before the race. It's about creatively finding the loopholes within the regulations, but that's not actually what we're trying really to deliver, even though our current version is doing exactly that. And that is only because it's the nature of this industry, the nature of motorsports. It's the kind of industry where once you enter, you tend to stay for a long, long time. And another fact about this industry when it comes to the regulations, the rule book has never really been like rewritten from scratch. Usually it just like update patches from like the previous version. So the two facts combine, right? When you enter the sport early and you stay for a long time, and the competitive nature of the sport where it forces you to always look for like engineering loopholes to better your design, you end up becoming someone who actually has a lot of discoveries, has figured out a lot of ambiguities, and pretty much know them like by heart. And that's the thing that I actually found out as I was working on the validation phase with our advisor, an engineer from a GT500 team, Super GT. So that's not what we're trying to deliver in the long run. Right now, we're just trying to surface the ambiguities to make it like faster, to actually make this whole process like more structure, more streamlined, make it faster for all the race teams at this speed and scale for the first time. But the real problem is actually when you know of the ambiguities of the loopholes, can you actually afford within like combining all the factors given your team's current situation, can you actually afford to exploit those ambiguities? That is actually the real problem, and that is actually what we are trying to solve, what we are trying to deliver. I'll give you some example for Super GT, since we figuring out the solution for Super GT right now. For example, there's some ambiguity known about success weight. So And like I'll explain that really briefly, and maybe I'm so scared because we have a GT 500 driver here. Maybe I mess up. So the game of Super GT, in case like a lot of you are not familiar with it, is that every time like the team like wins the round, you don't only accumulate the points, you also accumulate the weights that will be put onto your cars to actually make your cars go slower. And why do they do such a thing? Like, why do they actually punish the winning team? It's only because they want to make the race more fun for the audience to watch. They want to avoid the kind of problem that Formula One has been having for a while. The problem that like whoever is the richest gets on the podium every single race, right? Super GT doesn't do such a thing. Super GT has a different game mechanism entirely to ensure that the race is really equal. The race is more fun to watch. So in that case, all the engineers of all the teams, they actually know about this. And they're smart enough, so smart that sometimes the right decision to actually make sure that you win the entire season is to deliberately finish worse than they could have in order to avoid getting the weights put onto your cars. The last two races of the season, though, they'll start taking the weights off of your car. The penultimate round, they take half the weights off, and then the last round, they take all the weights off entirely, right? So something like that is actually well known to everyone in the world of Super GT. This ambiguity that's already known, can you actually exploit it though? That's the thing. Because if you deliberately exploit it and you exploit it in such a way that is so obvious, it could create a whole lot of different other problems. For example, sponsorship management, right? The how would your sponsors actually feel about that you have their logos plastered all over your car on all the gears of your drivers, and then it turns out that you finish worse on purpose in order to try to win at the end of the season, but the result is not guaranteed. So there's a lot of like really complex issues like that to manage, even though the ambiguities have already been found. So essentially what Gray Zone as a product is trying to deliver is to take into account all of those factors, all of those known ambiguities, which by the way, any team can find on their own using AI, because we did use AI ourselves to surface all of those ambiguities. And I can confirm with you right now, I'm not sure if this is gonna scare you or not, because our past session, Kenta Kawamoto-san, for example, just said so strongly that AI will actually like win, and AI will actually like come come for us, you know, it will actually replace like a lot of roles. I can also confirm with you on one thing that I know in my space, that AI now has reached the capability to read long, complicated regulatory text and find the actual ambiguities, at least in the world of motorsports, that engineers from race team can confirm to be true ambiguities. So that's not really what we selling at all. We trying to build this whole big like decision modeling platform that take into account all of the different factors that I just mentioned earlier, and try to give the team like the kind of like prediction, like the best like model scenario given all of the current states of the team on what they should actually do, whether or not they should exploit the ambiguities that they know in order for them to secure the podium at the end of the season.
Wow, that is
A lot more complicated than I've been selling to you guys earlier. Yeah.
That sounds very complicated. I couldn't imagine being a race car driver and actually having to put weights in my car. Like it's
Yeah,
like,
it's a little bit weird, right? Like why you as a winner who have like raced so fast and so hard and you accumulate points, but you also accumulate something else that actually makes you go slower in the
Yes,
next
yeah.
round. But if you think about it from like a fan engagement perspective, audience perspective, right? It's more fun to actually watch like a race like this where the result, the winning result, the championship is not guaranteed purely because you like Toyota
Right, right.
and you just the richest or something, right? So it's cool. I think it's cool, but it does make what we're trying to solve at our company a lot harder to solve.
Sounds like it. Okay, Koji-san, this question is for you. Over 20 years at the front of the grid, have you ever had a moment where you could see that a team knew something everyone else knew but wasn't saying out loud?
Yes, absolutely. You can always feel the edge before you see it on the date. In the paddock, a winning team moves differently. あるレースで特定のチームのピットだけが異様に静かで、メカニックの目線や、車の佇まい、絶対的な確信が漂っているというような景色を目にすることがあります。レギュレーションの隙間を見つけ、それを完璧に使いこなせる確信があるとき、チームは静かです。騒ぎません。データに現れる前に、パドックの空気の密度が変わる感じです。他のチームに気づいていながらも、あえて口にしない、そんな静かな心理戦が常に起きております。
At a race, I've once seen how a certain team's pit is eerily calm, that the mechanic's eyes, how the car sits, seems to show an absolute certainty. When a team finds the loopholes in the regulation, and when they are certain that they can fully utilize it, that team will not celebrate. That when even before the data appears in the paddock, the atmosphere's thickness changes. All the other teams also notice, but they don't say a word. That sort of silent psychological battle is always the case.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And Koji, a follow-up question for you. When Maprang first told you about Gray Zone, I heard your first question wasn't about AI at all. What was it and why did you go there first?
Because code doesn't open paddock doors. Trust does. Motorsports is a closed world built on human relationship. どんなに優れた AI がグレーゾーンを導き出しても、チームを率いる人間がそのツールを信頼できなければ、何億円もするようなマシンの運命を託すことは絶対にしないと思います。モータースポーツは命がけの世界であり、長年培った人間関係とリスペクトがベースにあります。だから私はマプランにこの素晴らしい技術をどうやって彼らに信頼に変えて届けるんだいというようなことを最初に聞きました。
Even if a very splendid AI finds the gray zones, if the people in the team cannot trust that tool, they will never never let the fate of the machine that has hundreds of millions behind it to its machine, to this AI. Motorsports is a world of life and death. And at the core of it all is that there is a human relationship that has been generated over years and years and the respect that comes from it. So I asked Mapran, so this is a splendid technology, but how are you going to change this into their trust? That was my first question.
So, Prang, if you can maybe answer that question very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
The question.
Yeah, the one he just said. So, how do you translate, or get the trust right of the drivers? Yes. 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 Yeah.
It's really hard. I have to admit, and I'm really aware
Can you
that
hear
I'm
me?
entering the industry that actually
Yeah, I can hear.
be potentially life-threatening.
Thank you
It's a
for
matter
joining
of
my
life and
call.
death, right? It's sport for human entertainment, but
It's
it
hard to hear
reminds me
you
a little bit of like the
with what I
gladiator
can hear,
time,
and
you know?
thank you for
It's
joining
the
our call.
gladiator type of sports with like
Okay.
human modernity and
I
machines
will
and
reflect
engines and
you
stuff.
to the main
So I'm
screen
really
in
aware.
30, in
How do I
9
get
minutes.
trust, right? Okay, like
Okay.
this event is definitely one example. That's the
Thank you so
reason
much for
why.
waiting.
Isn't it obvious,
No
you
problem.
guys? That's the reason why I invited all the very highly respected figures in motorsports, not only from motorsport Japanese brands, but also the global brands, well-trusted global brand like McLaren as well, right? So that's one thing. But another thing also is the credibility that I have from the past. I have to credentials, the credentials that I have from the past. I have to admit that actually I'm not someone from the world motorsport. So it's been really difficult for me trying to get access into this really close world. Like some of our speakers already mentioned, Koji-san mentioned that it's not the AI, it's not the code, it's not the technology that will actually break the doors in this world open. It's the trust, right? So the credentials that I have from my past life before I started my venture was I used to work in predictive maintenance algorithms for an adjacent industry, I would say for aerospace. That was at Airbus in Toulouse in France. So it's a little bit of different things combined, you know, being someone who knows enough about your own field, have some kind of humility as well to admit what you do, to admit what you don't know, what you still lack in order to gain access into this closed world, persistence, perseverance, relentlessness. You know, people who work in motorsports are really relentless people, and they are the kind of people who spend so long, like long hours, spend a lot of effort just to gain a tenth of a second. And I believe I'm also that kind of person. So all of this combined, yeah, the past credentials in adjacent industry, persistent perseverance, a lot of personal investment actually in going all around the world to try to gain access into the paddocks, like in Mexico and the UK, for example. So those are all the factors combined that help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Koji-san, this is the last question for you. In your experience, do teams that win consistently win because they find edges no one else sees, or because they're better at deciding which edges are actually safe to use? Yeah.
The best teams are not just smart. They have this crisp line. And finding the gap is easy. Knowing when to leave it alone is what makes a champion. 勝ち続けるチームは目先のコンマ数秒のグレーゾーンに飛びつくリスクと、スポンサー様だったり、メーカーさんとの関係、シリーズ全体の流れをすべて天秤にかけていると思います。引くべき時を知っている自制心と判断力、それこそが一流、二流、1位と2位とか、分けます。マプランのグレーゾーンがその判断の領域をサポートしようとしているのはまさに的を得ていると思います。
A team that keeps winning always keeps a balance between the risk of taking a split-second gray zone and the relationship with the sponsors, the makers, along with how the whole series is going on. So those who have the discipline and the ability to decide when to leave things alone is the difference between those who are the top notch and who are not. In that sense, MAPRON's gray zone, which is trying to support the decision-making process of this thing, is precisely what is needed.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Koji. Appreciate your words there. And last but not least, Matt Prang, final question, answer. We only have about 5 minutes left. Where does Gray Zone go from here?
Well, I already revealed a little bit earlier, right, that we trying to go from being able to surface the ambiguities more structurally, make it faster and at scale, right? But that's not really what is going to provide the value to the race teams because they are already known. And so next is we're going to build the decision modeling platform. And I already alluded to earlier how complicated it actually is, but it's also a fun project to work on. We plan to also provide the same solution. It's not going to be exactly the same because the game mechanisms of each racing series is different. For example, Formula One and Super GT, we cannot really like directly translate like one-to-one technology to work for both, right? So it's going to be a really fun project that we're going to work on all the different racing series in the world. We that ambitious, so that is where we're gonna go next. And the other part also that we would like to work on is definitely to provide another set of solution to the other stakeholder, the regulators. Because we would love to actually help provide the kind of tool that will help the regulators write tighter rules. And I understand, I know exactly what I'm just saying, what I just said, to write the tighter rules. By tighter rules, I don't really mean that they're gonna be able to close all the gaps. I don't believe so, because even though I'm an AI founder, I'm also team human. I believe in human ingenuity, especially in the world of motorsports, that when the rules get tighter, there will also be, the humans will also be able to find even more loopholes. And as someone who works at the edge of innovation, I believe you may not agree with me on this, and I'm happy to hear more about your opinions in the networking session. I believe that by actually helping the regulators writing tighter rules, we'll actually see even more innovation coming out of the best and the brightest mind in the world of engineering. Because us engineers, especially engineers in motorsports, we just love being squeezed.
Yeah, constraints definitely help innovation for sure. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this session. Give them a round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much. All right. Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Now we are on our final session, guys. We have a very special guest welcoming us. So please, yes. Thank you, Koji-san. Thank you so much. Thank you for your insights. Yes. All right. So we have a very special treat for you all this evening. Prang was able to get a very special guest to phone in with us. He's an Emmy Award-winning director and writer. He's most famous for Netflix's Drive to Survive series, which chronicles a Formula One season each year. Please give a warm welcome to Piers Sanderson, everyone. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. Hello, Piers.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on being nominated for yet another Emmy. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't think we're going to win though. To give us 2 years in a row would be a big ask, but just to be nominated is great. So it just shows that we're still up there and people still really like the series.
Yeah, I mean, you know, show of hands, guys. How many have watched the series before? How many have watched the series? Yeah, you have a lot of fans here for sure. It's incredible. I know you can't see it back there, but it's all right. So I wanted to ask you, you know, what's it feel like to be in the paddock with all of the drivers? What does it feel like to be a part of one of the most successful motorsport shows of the century?
Well, I did the series for 5 years, and even on my 5th year, and I did probably around 17 races a year. So 5 years ago, there was about 21, 22 races. Now I think there's 24. So I was doing an average of 17 a year. And each race is very similar. The paddocks look very similar. The garages are almost identical. And yet, even on my 5th year, towards the end of the season, I still felt extremely privileged to be where I was, because the Drive to Survive crew, because Formula One realized what we've done for the sport, we could go anywhere. We could go in and out of any garage, unlike the other broadcasters. So it was an extremely privileged situation and extremely privileged positions to be in the paddock and in the garages. And not just in the garages. I was in strategy meetings, I was in debriefs, I was in very personal meetings between drivers and team principals, places that nobody gets to see. It was a great experience.
It definitely, you know, a lot of people would be very jealous of. We want to have that situation where we're going to be able to ask drivers questions and be, you know, right there in the mix of things, right? Do you have any particular stories from some of the teams you're embedded with today that you can share with us? Anything from Ferrari, Haas, anything like that?
Well, I mean, is there anything that anybody in the audience would like to ask particularly? And then I can answer a question.
Great, great. Does anyone have a question for Piers? This is the director of Drive to Survive. Anyone have a question about any Ferrari fans here? Ferrari? Yes? Let's get him a question here. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much to be here today to answer to us question. My question is like, with these 5 years of filming, what I quite feel that there was a huge gap between the first season where obviously the driver, the team principal, they didn't know who you were and if it will help F1. And after the first season, the second season, we saw a huge amount of fans who came back. Did you see an evolution of the relation you got with, I don't know, like for example, Toto Wolff or Christian Horner in the past season have involved, because they came from who you are and what do you know about F1 to, this is a strong tools to put my sponsor up, to show my teams, to make new fans. Have you really seen evolution of this relation between you and the driver or you and the team principal?
So absolutely. So first of all, I'll say that although there was 4 directors on that did this series, and we all had either 2 or 3 teams each. So my main 2 teams were Ferrari and Haas, and then at the end I got Mercedes as well. But I dealt with all of the teams. So because you don't just deal with your teams, they're the ones that you look after through the season, but you're also running in and out of all the other garages and all the other teams. So to answer your question, absolutely, there was a huge evolution. At the beginning, people didn't know who we were, and we as directors didn't come from a motorsport background. We came from human storytelling, and I think that's one of the reasons that the series worked so well. We were telling the stories that weren't necessarily just racing stories. So we came in and we were fairly naive, but at the same time, we weren't fanboys. We weren't we weren't accepted initially, especially Mercedes and Ferrari didn't let us film with them. But like you say, as soon as the series hit and did well, and they saw what it was about, then everybody let us in. So there was a huge evolution. But the evolution wasn't all positive, in as much as people let us in and we got to see more. But then as they realized how we worked and what we did, we then became a lot more managed as well. So we were always fighting to try and get as much unmanaged access as we could get, because as you could imagine, the PR teams would be offering you certain things that you could film, but sometimes they would feel very set up, and you'd always be looking to try and get the real moments. And sometimes those moments aren't the moments the team wants to show at the time. Things could be going wrong for them. And one of the things that had to develop over time was trust that they would let us stay in those moments that weren't going well for them, so that we could then show how the season would improve or get better, or how they came out of those situations, and overcome the obstacles that they wanted to overcome or needed to overcome. Because documentary storytelling isn't just about showing everything that's going well. You need to show people overcoming challenges and then doing well. They're the good stories. So the big change was the development of trust between ourselves and the teams and the team principals, to allow us to stay in those moments that initially maybe they didn't want us to be there. And that took time.
We have time for one more question. Yes, over here. Yes.
So one of the most memorable things for me in Drive to Survive was the moments when you showed the conversations between Gene and Gunther in Haas.
Yeah.
So every conversation that you let on air was difficult, but also full of the feelings of the both sides. Can you tell us about a story that didn't make it to the final cut of Drive to Survive?
So it's very interesting that you choose that and say that's something that you like. And I think one of the reasons that you, myself, because I film most of those conversations, and everybody else liked that, is because it was real. Gunther Steiner has no filter, and on the days that I filmed him, he would put a radio mic on and he would leave it on, and that meant that I could, and we're constantly listening in. So I knew that at the end of a race or an end of a session, that he would go and call Gene to report in with what happened. So he wouldn't let me into his room to film, but I'd be outside in the corridor, and that's why I was filming a lot of doors and a lot of door signs, and listening to their conversations, and then choosing to put what we could into the series. Gunther let us put absolutely everything in. There was nothing that we needed to take out. Sorry, actually, that's not true. If there was something highly confidential, or about, for example, say something came up that was to do with talking about a sponsor or money or something like that, then we couldn't use that. But if it was to do with how the day went, or how the race was, or a problem he was having with the driver, he never made us take it out. In fact, we didn't deal with Gunther on what stayed in and stayed out. We dealt with Stuart Morrison, who is the head of communications for Haas, and he would check to see, because all the teams get a review process, so they can't tell us what to take out, but they can say, look, this is confidential, or this is detrimental. We'd much rather you didn't use this. And very rarely did Haas ask us to take anything out, because they felt maybe it made them look bad, or they tried to manage the narrative. And that's one of the reasons that Gunther became such a big star. That's one of the reasons that Haas, for such a for a team that wasn't performing at the top of the grid, still managed to get such great sponsorship value, was because they were completely real and uncensored, and we managed to, everything that we could film, we put in there, including these very sensitive conversations with the owner of the team and the team principal. So yeah, I've got nothing scandalous I can tell you that we had to take out of that. He let us keep everything in that wasn't commercially confidential. He was great to work with. When Gunther left, or when Gunther was sacked by Haas, it gave us a big challenge in storytelling terms, because every year he gave us the truth, and people want the truth. They want to see what's there. They don't want to see these very heavily managed PR situations. They want the facts, even if they are difficult. And that's why audiences fell in love with Haas and Gunther especially.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. One final question, just, we're at the Future of Speed event. This is an event, as you can see, many enthusiasts we have here who are interested in both motorsports and technology. If you have any, input or ideas into where, technology will take motorsports in the future, any final words for this audience? Yeah.
For me on technology?
Yeah, if you have any opinion on that, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've not listened to the conference, obviously, so I don't know what's happening. But I'm sure is AI going to get involved? Is artificial intelligence going to get involved in strategy in the race? Is that going to be working faster than the human mind? I mean, this is your sector, not mine. I think I would probably enjoy spending time with you guys at the forefront of technology and see if there's a way that we could then incorporate what was happening or what's going to come into our storytelling. So I think I've probably got a lot more to learn from you.
Yeah, that's partly what this event is for, is to help educate people in the future of speed, the future of motorsports, and you're at the forefront of there with people who are performing at the highest level. Any predictions for this season at all?
Predictions for this season?
Yeah, any predictions?
What, in terms of like how it's going to end, who's going to win, you mean?
Perspective, who do you think is going to win?
I think it's definitely Mercedes are looking in a very strong situation. I think there's a difficult situation between their two drivers. I think George is going to struggle psychologically with the way Kimi is going, and if he lets that get into his head, that could cause a problem for them. And then maybe you'll see the McLaren guys getting in there and closing that gap. I think Red Bull have done an incredible job with their car. Everybody thought this year that Red Bull were going to be struggling. The rumors coming out of their garage last year was that the engine wasn't good and they were having a difficult time. And with Honda leaving, it was going to be a disaster. A lot of people were predicting that Aston Martin were going to be amazing with Honda going there and with Adrian Newey being there, but obviously that's not turned out so well. So at the moment, I think it's Mercedes should win comfortably, drivers and constructors, as long as George can psychologically stay strong with a very young, inexperienced driver beating him, and that's not going to be easy for him. It's going to make interesting television.
Piers, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and insights with us today. And good luck on getting an Emmy. Hopefully you get the next one. Thank you so much.
Hey, fingers crossed. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, that is it for our sessions today. We had a couple of goals with this event. The first one being to inform you of some of the problems and some of the things happening in the motorsports industry. The second was to inspire you. A lot of you are entrepreneurs here. A lot of you are curious about technology, and we want to inspire you to maybe think of a different domain to build in, right? Motorsports, clearly there's plenty of problems to be solved, but not a lot of founders that are building in it. Hopefully today you got some little bites of where potentially you can get creative and then maybe solve some of those problems. And the last one is to connect with people in the industry. During the open networking session, we highly recommend you connecting with drivers, with the executives, with the technologists in this industry to learn more so that you can go out and build and go out and connect others, who are interested in the motorsports like us. I'm a huge motorsports fan. Hopefully many of you, we can have conversations about your love of cars and racing as well. And Maprang and I, we really appreciate you all coming out and making this first event a huge success. Thank you so much. We'll leave it for open networking, guys, so feel free. Stretch your legs, get up, yes.
Hello, everyone. Let me interrupt you guys quickly. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everyone. Let me interrupt the flow of networking just quickly because we, the organizers, forgot to do one thing. We would like to take group photos with the organizers, the volunteers, the speakers, and at the end, we're gonna take a group photo of all of us, and we hope that you will help us post like the moment from this event online, any platforms that you are on, and maybe hashtag future of speed, tag our accounts, tag all of the speakers account as well, because like I mentioned earlier, this is the first of the series, but we certainly do not want it to be the last. So if you could help us spread the word about the first one, we will really, really appreciate. So yeah, could you please move a little bit away from the screen? And then we will begin the group photo session now. And after the group photo sessions, the networking will resume. Thank you so much. Move away from the screen a little bit, you guys. Thank you so much. Please make some room, make some room. Step away from the screen for a second. First, we will take the group photos of the organizers, of the speakers, of the volunteers, and the last one, it will be all of us. Thank you so much. Make some room, you guys. Thank you, thank you. Speakers, please come forward. We'll have a group photo together. Oh. So for the first photo, it'll be all the speakers and the organizers. And the second one will be speaker, organizers, volunteers. The third one, everyone in the photos. Sorry, ให้หน่อยค่ะ เอาทุกแนว
โอเค
เอาทุกแนวชัดๆนะชัดๆ
พยายาม